Hey guys, Derek here. We're going to take a look at the news for the 31st of January to the 6th of February 2022. We're doing a offline pre-recorded one this week just because I didn't have time to do it live, but typically weekly news recap is done live over on Twitch on Sundays at 12 PM if you want to check that out. Anyway, we'll get straight into the news. So this week, Sony, in a response to Microsoft maybe, or probably not, I imagine this was in the work long before news of Microsoft's acquisition of Activision went through, but instead Sony have bought Bungie, makers of Destiny 2 and original makers of Halo, for $3.6 billion. Sony announced today it plans to buy Destiny 2 maker Bungie for that amount of money. Bungie will reportedly remain an independent subsidiary and be allowed to self-publish and reach players however it chooses. For now. Always append "for now" at the end of all of those things, because part of the $3.6 billion figure is going mostly towards shares in Bungie, which means Sony will, I think, have a controlling interest in Bungie at that point, or at the very least have a sizable portion of Bungie's shares, meaning can kind of make it do whatever it wants. So it's debatable how independent it will be after that. So some history around Bungie. Halo was a launch exclusive for the original Xbox. Bungie eventually broke with Microsoft to go back to being independent, only to hook up with Activision to publish Destiny 1. In 2019, Bungie split with the Call of Duty maker as well, following years of what was reportedly a very strained business partnership. Now, in a weird twist of fate, only 2022 could deliver. The two gaming companies will soon be owned by opposing first-party console rivals. Very strange. What two gaming companies are they talking about? There's only one gaming company. Unless they're talking about Activision as well, whatever. I don't know. Activision were never owned by anybody? What was Activision called before it was Activision? It was like Intellivision or something like that. And they renamed it. I don't remember. Anyway, I guess the weirdness here is that it's gone from Microsoft through a bunch of other independents and then Activision and then back and then over to Sony randomly. It's kind of weird. But yeah, so that was a pretty big news. Sony purchasing Bungie for $3.6 billion. Now, why? What's Sony getting out of this? Because Bungie say its games will remain multi-platform after PlayStation acquisition. So Bungie has no intention of making Destiny 2 exclusive to PlayStation or anything like that. We want the worlds we are creating to extend to anywhere people play games. We will continue to be self-published, creatively independent, and we will continue to drive one unified Bungie community. So Bungie, at least for their part, have no intention of restricting themselves to just PlayStation. So what is Sony's endgame? Why have Sony bought Bungie? Because they're not really gonna get like the exclusivity stuff because they don't want it. Or rather, Bungie don't want it. They've been pretty vocal about it. Sony have, for their part, said that they're allowing Bungie to remain independent for now. Again, always remember to add "for now" at the end of these statements. But you see, Sony plans to launch more than 10 live services games by 2026, so that's kind of why they bought Bungie. Because they're kind of going to have Bungie do a lot of this, or maybe use their expertise in Destiny. Expertise, I use fucking citation needed on that because they have really fucking dropped the ball on Destiny, but whatever. Jim Ryan said his decision to buy Bungie was about bolstering the company's live service expertise, but in post-earnings comments today, Sony gave some idea as to just how much it will lean on the Destiny developer for that. Through close collaboration between Bungie and the PlayStation Studios, we aim to launch more than 10 live service games by fiscal end March 31st, 2026. 10 fucking live service shithead games. Great. Can't fucking wait for that. Doesn't say if it's existing IPs or new IPs or whatever. I imagine the majority of that 10 will be new IPs. Maybe they'll do a Horizon fucking live service thing. I don't know. Through this acquisition, we intend to acquire new users and increase engagement on platforms other than PlayStation, so PC, basically, which will enable us to significantly advance our long-term growth strategy of further expanding the ecosystem of our game business. So Sony has been pushing some of its games out onto PC. I imagine this is a further attempt to go out to PC. Live service games tend to do kind of well on PC as well. Whether they'll eventually, have Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation and then PlayStation Plus Pass on Xbox, you know, we'll have something like that, and the game consoles themselves are become largely irrelevant. I doubt it somehow, but maybe. But yeah, that's kind of why Sony bought. They're not really buying it for Destiny necessarily. They're buying it for Bungie's expertise, with an asterisk, for live services things. But then a kind of interesting point about the money is that not all of it is going to just purchasing Bungie outright, or purchasing shares in it rather. Is that Sony will be spending 1.2 billion, or a third, on retaining Bungie staff alone. So how the company is going to allocate 3.6 billion it spent on acquiring Bungie, a third of the money will be deferred payments to employee shareholders, conditional upon their continued employment and other retention incentives. So employee shareholders are employees who have been given stock in the company, which is kind of something that's done if you're going to be there or to keep you around and to keep you interested in the company's well-being, because your share price will go up if the company's doing better. So there's always an incentive to give an employee stock rather than just money outright. One, you mightn't have it to give, you mightn't have the money to give, you sort of always have stock to give, so it's kind of a weird thing about it. Anyway, it's not weird, it's duplicitous, but whatever. In other words, Sony will be spending $1.2 billion on incentives to retain Bungie staff after its buyout takes place, and says it will do so for several years, so that money is going to be set aside for basically keeping people on, keeping their senior staff on, I imagine, so they don't disappear off and make their own independent studio, which tends to happen. Like, they'll buy off, or buy up rather, or acquire, if you prefer, a well-known studio, and then the senior members of that studio with most of the experience go away and make an independent studio. Sometimes they're forced out, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just, I don't want to be under the heel of some corporate overlord, so I'm just gonna leave, and I'm gonna take all the guys who I've been working with for 15 years with me, and we're gonna make an independent studio. So fuck you guys. The remainder of the money will be used to directly purchase private shares of the studio. So yeah, that's where they're getting a fairly controlling. Is the actual percentage given here? No. So it doesn't say how many shares they're buying, but enough that it they'll be considered acquiring Bungie. So it's 51%, I guess. So pretty big news, but not like it's just another massive game acquisition, because we already had Take-Two bought Zynga, Microsoft bought Activision and Bethesda, Sony are now buying Bungie, and I didn't put the article in, but elsewhere in that interview with Jim Ryan, they're like, yeah, this is like the first of many acquisitions that are coming. There is a kind of massive consolidation of the video game industry going on at the moment, and that's not a good thing. The fewer voices there are, the fewer independent voices in particular there are, the less variety you're going to see in video games. You'll see them doubling down on the stuff that already makes them money. This is why you see hundreds of Call of Duties and so many Battle Royales, people trying to make live services out of everything. It's bad. Basically, it's bad for the industry. Even if you might be like a console fan, you're a PlayStation zealot or an Xbox zealot or a Nintendo zealot, whatever. It's exclusivity and consolidation are not good for the industry. So while more are on the way, I don't want to hear it, to be honest, because I'm kind of worried about who's getting bought next and who they're going to. Anyway, before we get into some more industry news, we're going to take a look at some of the new releases this week. So first up is Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 Stay Human. So this will be a kind of open world zombie survival kind of thing, where you are kind of stuck in this walled off city. You are looking for your sister, I believe, or trying to track down big evil guy who took you away from your sister or experimented on you and your sister or something like that, and you're basically doing parkour shenanigans to try to find her. I played a little bit of it yesterday. That would have been Saturday the 5th of February over on Twitch, so the VOD will be on Twitch and the YouTube channel as well. If you want to check that out, feel free. It looks fun. If the jumping's a little bit janky, but otherwise it looks fun. I think I'll get into it. Maybe a little bit. But do be careful though that you do, if you are interested in Dying Light 2, that you get Dying Light 2 Stay Human, and be careful you don't accidentally get Dying Night Sex with Zombie on the PC. Just be careful. If you're on console, you'll be fine. You won't have that issue. But if you're on PC, you may accidentally get Dying Night Sex with Zombie. So just be careful there. A game for adults only. You are on an experimental station in space. You're doing research on zombies' sexuality. Why? Who knows? But there you go. Developed by Sex Party Games. Good stuff. Good stuff, PC. Anyway, some updates. There were a few developer dumps, basically. So they're like kind of, not first looks, but kind of like deep dives, I guess, on some games coming out. So the first one was Ghostwire Tokyo, which I've been somewhat, like, I'm really interested in it, but I've been kind of worried about it because it has lost a bunch of senior members of the development team over its development time, and I don't know how to feel about it. But from what I've seen on this, it looks like it will at least be fun. So Tango Gameworks had a kind of deep dive video out this week. I think it was on Thursday, where they showed off some of the first person actiony stuff thing. You can basically think of it as like Dishonored in Japan kind of thing, but like modern Japan. There's also a bit of Doctor Strange or Okonmyo magic, where they do the kind of finger positions and stuff to do magic, which is, I always really liked it. But then the ghost wire thing is that you can actually make threads with the magic and you wrap it around your hands like a cat's cradle kind of thing, and that makes different magic spells go off. I'm using magic here loosely. I think it's called something else in the game, but whatever. It looks visually interesting, to me at least, and it's a little bit different. You know, it's still first person, but it's not a shooter or whatever. And seeing the game with like the ray tracing, HDR and stuff, and it's like rain slick concrete ground and everything like that, it looks gorgeous. Like, it looks really, really nice. I'm really interested to see how it plays out. And there's also a bit of like light traversal stuff, because you do have a grappling mechanic where you can get up onto rooftops and stuff like that. So could be cool. Plus, there's Slendermans with umbrellas. Who doesn't want to fight a Slenderman? Anyway, that's Ghostwire Tokyo. It's a fairly lengthy video, 20-minute video there. Going into it, if you want to know more about it, check that out. And then Sony had a state of play for Gran Turismo 7. I was kind of hoping they might do like an icebreaker-y thing where they'd show off a couple of smaller games beforehand, before getting into Gran Turismo, but they didn't. It was just straight, all Gran Turismo from the very first second. All racing, all simulated, all extremely pretty and extremely uninteresting all at the same time. I think my interest in Gran Turismo has always just been its graphical fidelity and just how hard they go on cars. It's like, they really, really fucking like cars in Gran Turismo. It's like almost pornographic, the level of detail they go into. So the video itself is just showing off like all the different racing modes. Gran Turismo is, of course, a sim racer rather than an arcade racer, so it's not like super fun slipping about the place in like an arcade thing. It's more of like a, still fun. I probably shouldn't use the word fun, but whatever. Like, simulated races are a little bit different. There's a lot more things to worry about, damaging and thread wear on your tires and all that kind of shit. I actually really liked Gran Turismo's VR mode. That was a lot of fun. I think a lot of people, I say a lot of people, but I know I've heard from people who got motion sick playing it, but I didn't anyway. Yeah, and again, when they turned on their HDR ray tracing, it's gorgeous, like actually gorgeous looking. And kind of this other modes, I don't know if we'll get to it here. Obviously, Gran Turismo's UI is always kind of very simple, but it's always really slick. I kind of like that. They go super deep into like the history of the car, like the specific car that you're buying, and like when Porsche was founded or when Lamborghini was founded and so on, and its history and that kind of thing. Like, it's going really fucking hard on car stuff. And while I don't have a super interest in cars, I respect this level of detail that they go into. But unlikely that I'll be touching Gran Turismo because I'm just not really into racers. But hey, you might be, and there's like half an hour of it right there if you want to check it out. And then some new games were announced. So first up, we have Mina the Hollower, which is from Yacht Club Games. You may better know as the guys who made Shovel Knight. Mina the Hollower strikes me as a Castlevania type thing, where you're playing a mouse. I assume it's a mouse, might be a rat, but I think it's a mouse. Like, that intro right there is very, very Castlevania. That's kind of what you're going here. You've got how to put it really necessarily, but it's like, you know, the kind of Shovel Knight pixelated kind of thing, harkening back to the kind of the older Castlevania titles. Mina, for her part, has a kind of tunneling ability, so she can kind of dodge around enemies going digging underground, and she can also reach underlying areas by digging underground for longer periods of time and that kind of thing. But the other way to look at it is it's by the guys who made Shovel Knight, and Shovel Knight is excellent. It's like a very, very good game. I have little reason to expect that Mina the Hollower won't be any better, or any worse. I don't know, whatever way you want to put it. I really like what I'm seeing here. Probably won't get to it in this trailer, but it is on Kickstarter right now, just like the original Shovel Knight was. So they're going back to that, getting the community involvement. And I think the community involvement in Shovel Knight was done very, very well. You can definitely see it in the game, just all the different things that were put into it, the different characters, how they kind of fleshed them out a lot more from like community feedback and that kind of thing. Whether Yacht Club really need the money necessarily, I don't think they do. I think this is more of a kind of get the community involved kind of thing. But whatever, you can check that out. Anyway, it's on Kickstarter right now if you want to check it out. Full disclosure, I haven't backed it yet, but I probably will after I finish recording this. And then another game that was announced is Voice of Cards, The Forsaken Maiden. So you may recall, because it's been on the channel before, we had Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars, and they already now have not necessarily a follow-up, this is more like another entry, we'll say, in the world of Voice of Cards. So if you didn't see my video on it, or any of the videos on it, Voice of Cards is a kind of... It's a turn-based RPG that's trying to mimic the idea of a tabletop role-playing game, in that you have a kind of singular narrator who kind of voices all the characters and tells you everything that's going on kind of thing, and the actual combat itself is done by like dice rolling, like literal dice roll across the screen. You have actual resources to spend in the form of like little crystals that you collect. They're like little items on a literal table in the virtual screen. Like it's done everything to try to mimic that you're playing a tabletop role-playing game. I think it does a pretty good job of it. I really do like its presentation. Like the map itself is made out of cards as well. They're like laying out, this is a land card, this is a road card, this is a forest card, and so on. I really like the presentation of the Isle Dragon Roars. I really genuinely really like that game. Went back and platinumed it as well. I enjoyed it so much. The only thing that I kind of would have liked is that if the narrator either they got someone else to voice the actual characters, or had the narrator do an accent or something to break up the character speech a little bit, because it can get a tiny bit monotonous when it's the same voice reading for the same character. If you get me, like it's difficult for him to have a quote and then have she said and then the quote, or as she said, or she said, or sternly, or something like that. When it's the same voice, you can kind of it can kind of just wash over you, in my opinion. I think it's better to either put on an accent, or change the affectation, or do a funny voice, or something like that. At least that's what I do when I DM, because I think it breaks it up a little bit and lets you know that it's not the DM talking now, it's the character, the NPC that's talking. You know, I think it's easier for the player to get that, and it's particularly easier when you're doing it entirely over voice. You know, if you don't have your camera on, or you're not in person, it's much. I think it's like a quality of life thing, but you can definitely tell I'm talking to the character right now and not talking to the DM. Anyway, and then some other updates. So kind of unsurprisingly, but Rocksteady's Suicide Squad. Every time I do this, Suicide Squad, squill. Anyway, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League has been delayed to next year. We're only in January of 2022, but they're already coming out say, nah, don't expect it until next year. Now, on one hand, you know, kind of somewhat disappointing that it's like an entire, that's a considerable delay. But it's probably better than just having multiple small delays, you know, having it just getting knocked down by 3 months every time it comes up, it just say, nah, you know what, just fucking push it out for like a year. So that is, in one sense, that's good. In the other sense, why do they need an entire year? Like, what is going on with that game that they need a full year delay? Another way to look at it is that they had already delayed a couple of games into this year. So Gotham Knights and Hogwarts Legacy were originally supposed to come out last year. and both of those were delayed into this year. So it's possible that they don't want to like cannibalize their sales. So this could just be a case of them wanting to give Gotham Knights and Hogwarts space to sell. And there's actually nothing wrong with Suicide Squad. They're just going to give them more time to work on it. Just polish it even more, I guess, is an option. They've also had Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, Skywalker Suicide Squad Saga, fucking hell, has been also delayed to April. So they've got a lot of games that were pushed down, and I guess they've pushed into the same time frame that they were going to plan for Suicide Squad. So that's my guess. My guess is that there's nothing necessarily wrong with the game. Like, it could do, I mean, every game could always do with more polish. Like, and you work on any software whatsoever, any creative thing at all, can always do with more time. There is a certain point where you just go, okay, it's done. But I think in this case they do have the room, so why not? And then this is more of a PSA. Discord is officially rolling out on PlayStation consoles from today. Today was Monday. Yeah. So it should be there. If you had turned on Discord during this week, you might have seen a little notification to say, hey, connect your PlayStation account. So you can do that now if you want. Currently, all it does is shows people who follow you what you're playing on PlayStation. That's it. If you have any of your other accounts connected, like Spotify or Xbox or something like that, you might also see such and such is now listening to this music, or such and such is playing this on Xbox or playing this on Steam or something like that. That's it. That's all it does. As far as I know, you can't do anything else with it. I don't think there's a Discord app on PlayStation or anything like that. There's no way to like stream from your PlayStation into a Discord chat, which is something I would like to see. Just in general, I think that would be an interesting thing to do, or to stream from like YouTube into Discord, so you could have like a private live stream kind of thing, which isn't really something you can do at the moment. Or can you? I think you can do unlisted live streams. You can do unlisted, not necessarily private, but you can do unlisted live streams in YouTube, I think. And you just give people the link, and in that case it'd be private, but I actually don't know. I haven't looked into it, but it would be an option. And then further PSA, if you currently own the Dark Pictures or know somebody who owns one of the Dark Pictures anthology games, so Man of Medan, Little Hope, or House of Ashes, it only came out recently, they are currently doing for February and for Valentine's Day kind of thing, they're doing a Friends Pass promotion. So basically, if you're on console and you have a friend who either wants to play the Dark Pictures or have a friend who owns the Dark Pictures and you want to play it with them, because you can play the games cooperatively, you download the demo or the trial or whatever it is on Xbox or PlayStation. I don't think it's on Switch. And then the person who owns the game goes to their game, make sure it's all updated. There'll be a Friends Pass option there on the main menu, and click into that and it'll take you through the whole thing, and you'll be able to play the game together for February if you feel like it. On PC it's a little bit more convoluted, but whatever, it's all I'm sure you can figure it out if you want to. It's a good, they're fun games, and cooperatively they're interesting as well, because the other player, while most of the time when you play the Dark Pictures there are two characters walking around together, and that's obviously to facilitate co-op. The other player plays the other character, but sometimes you're there by yourself and you're like, what does the other character do when that happens? They're somewhere else, they're in a different scene, which you wouldn't necessarily get to see if you only ever played it single. Now Dark Pictures does sometimes release the theatrical cut, or sorry, not the theatrical cut, the curator's cut, which gives you access to the second player's viewpoint, so you can play it as the second player instead, and you can see the optional scenes in that way. What is wrong with my tongue today? Anyway, if you feel like it, it's there. You don't need to own the game, just one of you needs to own the game, and you can make it work. Okay. It is now unfortunately time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So, hot topic as it has been for a while now, and considerable pushback from pretty much everybody else associated with video games on NFTs. So this was a bit of a roller coaster ride all in the space of 24 hours. So what happened? Okay, Team 17, who currently own the Worms license, decided, hey, let's make Worms NFTs. So they just announced that, yeah, we're going to make some Worms NFTs or whatever. No idea what it was going to be. There was no details on what you'd get or anything like that. Not that anyone particularly cares. If you went to the website, you were just greeted with this image. And this worm on the right here, who's all glittery and looking absolutely vile, just rotated on the spot. I guess the implication was that's what you'd get, but again, nobody knew. But then, even better, there's a MetaWorms, which is what the NFT was going to be called. There's a MetaWorms Discord where a project roadmap channel includes a post saying, do a roadmap. No actual roadmap, just do a roadmap. Other channels such as NFT Discussion, Speculation, and Shilling Channel, called Shilling Channel. A channel called Shilling Channel. That seems redundant, but okay. Currently empty, but yeah, if you have literally two call, like, one of the biggest concerns about NFTs is that they're just tools for speculation. That's it. That's all they're for. No actual inherent worth to them. And then you have a channel literally called Speculation. Like, you're saying the quiet part out loud, guys. But somewhat even better. Several teams within Team 17 had no knowledge that this was going to happen. So this blindsided even the people who worked there. They were like, what the fuck? And when they found out, after the deal was signed, they voiced their disapproval of it. So they didn't know. They didn't know anything about it, but as soon as they knew about it, they were like, what the fuck are you doing? Get this out of the company immediately. Team 17 responded to Eurogamer when they asked for comment. They were basically saying that these NFT collectibles would not translate into the introduction of NFTs into the indie games it publishes. So Team 17, along with developing Worms titles, they also publish a bunch of independent games. This is them trying to cover their ass and like not lose their publishing partners because their publishing partners aren't happy about this either. Because developers of Team 17 published games slam Worms NFT plans. This was like an hour maybe after they announced it, and a bunch of developers came out and were like, fuck this shit. So we got Ghost Town Games, who were like kind of sort of diplomatic about it. Hey there, we at Ghost Town Games, who make Overcooked, just wanted to reassure you all that Overcooked and any of our future games will never engage with this shit. We do not support it. We think they carry too great environmental and social costs. We also want to ask folks to be kind when they talk to their community. So don't give out to the Twitter bot, the Twitter drone who's running their community account. They have no say in this. This is absolutely coming from some shithead at the top. Aggro Crab were considerably less diplomatic. So Aggro Crab are the people behind Going Under, which is a satirical roguelike based in like a Silicon Valley startup. It's really funny and extremely depressing all at the same time, because you're like, the very funny joke that is literally my life. Great. Love it. So if you can't read that, it says, we at Aggro Crab condemn Team 17's decision to produce and engage with this shit. We believe this shit cannot be environmentally friendly or useful and are really just an overall fucking grift. Please do not harass employees at Team 17 or the devs under their umbrella, as this decision seems to have taken everyone off guard and likely came from the very top. Yes, absolutely. This is a bunch of shareholders going, hey, you know, wouldn't it be good if we got into the NFT thing? Maybe we could make some money. And then this is everyone under them going, no, absolutely not. And them going, yeah, but I'm a shareholder, I'm making you do it, so do it. And then they do it, and then this predictable backlash happens. Needless to say, we will not be working with them on future titles and encourage other indie developers to do the same unless this decision is reversed. I fucking hate it here. And then Playtonic, who once upon a time had Ukulele published by Team 17, came out to say much the same thing, although they were a little more diplomatic about it. But yes, we do not endorse the use of this garbage. So that was like an hour after the news dropped from Team 17, and then the next morning Team 17 drops Worms NFT project. Team 17 is cancelling the MetaWorms NFT project it announced yesterday. Team 17 is today announcing an end to the MetaWorms project. We have listened to our Teamsters, development partners, and our games community's Teamsters. Fuck. and the concerns that they've expressed, and have therefore taken the decision to step back. Yeah, sure. It had absolutely nothing to do with the community. It was absolutely the developing partners, like their source of actual income, that were like, fuck this. And then this article also highlights a couple of other companies that have gone, yeah, let's make NFTs, only to like immediately say, okay, no. Lol joke, just kidding guys. Please keep buying our stuff. Alright, sticking with NFTs and companies who haven't got the memo yet. Ubisoft's latest Galaxy Brain move is to gift scammy NFTs to employees. Even better. Ubisoft's ongoing NFT odyssey continues to bewilder and demoralize not just longtime fans, but also its own developers. It gave out 2 skeptical employees. It gave out special NFTs to some members of the GhostCon Recon team. We hate this crypto shit, and Ubisoft one developer likened it to the staff saying, we hate this crypto stuff, and Ubisoft responding with, okay, come get some. I was like, I don't want it. Here you go. No. Go away. This is, of course, following on from that kind of ridiculous interview last week that we had a look at, where he said gamers don't get it. It being NFTs. They don't understand what they're getting, where he does an absolutely terrible job of incentivizing or trying to explain what we should be getting out of it, because it isn't. They had a Q&A with some of the developers who were very skeptical about it, and he brought up the idea of cosmetic items can follow players between games. But the problem is, one, the NFTs they're selling right now aren't set up to do that, and 2, nobody knows how they would do it. The actual interoperability. It's not actually possible to do that. The amount of interoperability, as they put it, it would be so high and so expensive that it makes any money you would make out of this, like, irrelevant. The overall cost to implement something like that would just be astronomical. Not to mention all of the IP problems, copyright issues, contract signings you would have to do if you wanted to move it to a different company, and so on. How long do you support this? Do you support this indefinitely? You know, is an NFT I buy now meant to appear in a game 500 years from now? You know, none of that has been ironed out, and they still keep going on. Yeah, we could totally do it, you guys. It's like we don't understand how computers work at all. Anyway, it's 3 to 4 years of work for a fucking auction house, as one developer told Kotaku. The auction house here, they're talking about the Diablo 3 auction house, which was roundly criticized and taken out of the game pretty quickly. This is the NFT they were gifted. It's a hat, or no, specifically, it is a link to a picture of a hat. Or it is a link to the data to recreate a 3D model of a hat. No, that's not it here, because that would be in the game. It is a link to a flag that says I own the hat, maybe? Not entirely sure what you're getting here. The NFT hats are a strange way of saying thank you to a team that has struggled over the last 2 years to win back fans through patches and updates after Breakpoint's disastrous 2019 launch. Bloated with open world features and survival elements some players hated, Ubisoft's Paris studio has had a long road to travel to rebuild player trust. Ubisoft's NFT plans, according to an internal survey, torpedoed much of fans' goodwill within the first week they were announced. Good job, idiots. Now, we are talking about Ubisoft and their NFT bullshit. Well, let's move on to EA and their NFT bullshit. But, you know, it's somewhat good news, I guess. Middling news. It's not bad news, anyway. That EA boss Andrew Wilson has said that FIFA and Apex Legends publisher is not currently looking to get into the NFT business, despite comments again from Wilson as recently as last November. It's not even that long ago, 2 months, where he just 3 months, I guess, technically, where he described NFTs as an important part of the future of our industry. So what happened? What happened between him saying NFTs are an important part of the future of our industry, and now suddenly they're not looking to get into it? You know what happened? They posted, it's not in this article, but it's in some other places. He's posted a message in the company Slack that was like, here's our goal for NFT for the company of EA. and it was fucking dunked on by everybody. Now that is very surprising, because this is like risking your job to dunk on the CEO. This is how much they fucking hated the idea. The developers at EA were like, no fucking thanks. Which is what Ubisoft's been getting too, but they're just putting their head in the sand and trying to plow through, whereas EA were like, okay, that's fine. I imagine they were also seeing the issues that all the other developers are getting, and getting the absolute just ripped apart by everybody else about it. And hey, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe let's not do that. And maybe people who've realized it's a bad idea. Troy Baker ends partnership with NFT firm, says sorry for hate or create comment. Remember that? Remember when he just was extremely combative with everybody on Twitter for no reason? Prolific video game voice actor Troy Baker has chosen to end his partnership with shitheads following an overwhelmingly negative reaction to his endorsement of the company. So you may remember the tweet went out where he was like, hey, I've partnered with these shithead NFT guys and something. We all have a story to tell. You can hate or you can create. What'll it be? Anyway, this is like a full month after that. Thank you for all your feedback and patience. After careful consideration, I've decided to not continue the partnership with these shitheads. Intentions aside, I've heard you and apologize for accusing anyone of hating just by simply disagreeing with me. Hey, well, you know what? At least that is a grown-up fucking point to have. It doesn't address the fact that he was endorsing a company that would actually put him out of business. Him and everyone else in his industry out of business. Like, if it worked, which it wouldn't work, of course, because that wasn't the intention. The intention was, of course, to just steal money. Anyway, now that we're out of the woods for NFT shit for now, but we have unfortunately stumbled straight back into an Activision Blizzard bullshit thing. So, union busting staff message from Activision Blizzard released online. So this was dropped in Raven Software's Slack by the VP of QA at Activision, who absolutely does not engage in any QA whatsoever. Otherwise, he would not have said this. So it's a fairly lengthy Slack message. VP of QA at Activision just posted this shit in company Slack. Lol, this was posted in a channel where you can't reply to threads. Of course it was. So that's it there. I'll leave it up for a bit if you want to pause and read. Yeah, maybe can I move the mouse to somewhere where it's not over text? Not really. I think you can get it. Anyway, you can pause to read it there, I suppose, if you want. I'll give you like 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Anyway. Highlighting some of the stuff he said. So kind of like the worst thing he said basically was, a union doesn't do anything to help us produce world-class games, and the bargaining process is not typically quick, often reduces flexibility, and can be adversarial and lead to negative publicity. Yeah, for you. A union may not do anything to help you produce world-class games, although, to be honest, whatever you're doing right now also doesn't help you produce world-class games. But you know what a union does do? Helps protect the company, and by the company here I mean the employees who actually work there and are the actual company itself. Protects them from all the fucking shit that's happening at Activision Blizzard. That's what it does. That's what the people who work there want. They don't particularly care about the world-class game thing, because they don't really see the money out of it. All the money from producing world-class games goes to C-suite and up executive suite. It's not like the salary packet goes up every time they make a good game, because it doesn't. A unionized company cannot act quickly on its own if the union does not agree with its position. Yes, good. It is meant to. It is meant to slow you guys down from doing bullshit. In both situations, the company remains free to disagree and maintain a different position. Technically, yes, it does, but if they do maintain their different position, they are liable to see strikes, or go slows, or what's it called when you just literally do what's in your contract and nothing else? I forget, there's a word for it, where you basically stop doing all the other things that aren't in your contract but you kind of do anyway in your job. That's not a go slow. I forget what the fuck it's called. There's a word for it anyway. But yeah, you can free to maintain that different position if you want. But if a sizable collective at your company don't like it, it's not happening. Although Arends, this is VP at QA, is open to questions from employees, the message was posted in a Slack channel that doesn't allow for replies. Fucking coward. Instead, employees reacted with an emote saying "fucking unionize" in the Blizzard font. Nice. Somebody took the time to make that emote, and then a bunch of people used it just on this message. Alright, we're unfortunately still having to stick with Activision because the FTC has reportedly stepped in to review Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal. So, when there are these kind of sizable corporate acquisition merger type things, typically they'll be reviewed by the Justice Department and the FTC together. What's different here is that the FTC are doing it by themselves. So it will not be reviewed. It will not be reviewed by the Justice Department, which typically works with the FTC to rule on similar cases. So for some reason, the Justice Department is not being brought in for this. The FTC are going to do it by themselves. Now, what I think is happening here, and it's not mentioned in the article. What I think is happening here is that there's probably a conflict of interest in the Justice Department because of the many lawsuits that Activision Blizzard are currently under. So I would think that in an effort to keep like plausible deniability or whatever away from anyone who would be working in the Justice Department, just in case stuff makes its way down to people who would be working on those cases, that they're just going to keep them separate. That's what I think. I don't think there's anything necessarily insidious going on here. Now, I could be wrong, obviously, but that's what I think is happening. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, anyway. Right. It's been a while. But it is now, once again, time to shit on Google Stadia, because Google deprioritizes Stadia as it shifts to securing streaming deals. So a new report today says that Google is deprioritizing Google Stadia while it's in the process of shopping the cloud gaming services technology to business partners. Focus for leadership is now securing streaming deals for Stadia under the label Google Stream. So this is kind of what I assumed Google Stadia were going to do. I believe I said this a while ago, is that they would change it to become a white label service where they would just partner with game developers and have them use their streaming service rather than use Google Stadia as its own platform kind of thing. They would just say, hey, why not use us for game streaming? Use Google Stream to do your game streaming stuff. So partner with like PlayStation Now to set up those servers, or maybe partner with Twitch at some point to do it for that kind of thing. That is what I imagine they're aiming to do now, instead of trying to like actually develop games for Stadia kind of thing. Phil Harrison, the head of Stadia operations, now reports to Google's head of subscriptions. So there's no head of subscriptions that's a weird department to just have, just the department of subscriptions. That's weird, right? That's kind of odd. Anyway, Phil Harrison is kind of funny because did I mention this? I may have said this just to myself, which is entirely possible. And even if I did put it in video, I'm still probably saying it to myself. But anyway, has Phil Harrison been successful at anything? I kind of feel like anything he's touched has not turned out well. We've got Google Stadia here. Then he was on Xbox for something. The Xbox One, it might have been the Xbox One launch, I forget now. He was on the PS3 when that launched, again, probably Sony's worst performing console. He's been with something else. I think he was with Atari for a bit as well. But anyway, I don't think he's actually been successful at anything, and yet somehow he keeps ending up in these like really high level positions. He has Peter principle, is that what it is? Where you rise to the job that you are not most incompetent at, but you keep rising until you become incompetent at the job, and then that you get stuck there, and somehow he has risen to one of the higher points. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, unsurprisingly, that Google has once again tired of one of its toys. I think it is again time to highlight this this website, Killed by Google, which points out all the different products that Google has ignored or shuttered over the years. These ones that have the guillotine on them are next up on the list to be chopped. Imagine Stadia will find its way here at some point. But all these ones all of them that have graves, look at this shit. All these ones that have graves are products Google has brought out and then subsequently killed. And not many of them lasted more than 2 years. Which, you know, never get your hopes up for Google products because they get bored. They get bored really, really easily. Okay. Time to finish off with, I call this section dumb stuff, but it's more just stuff that doesn't really fit anywhere else. Maybe I need a better name for it. Typically, dumb stuff would just be like stuff I found funny or stupid or whatever. But these aren't. These are like good things, but I just didn't think they belonged in updates. And they definitely don't belong in industry bullshit, but whatever. So a Bloodborne demake came out today. And today being Friday. And this is from Eurogamer, so this is Eurogamer's Ian Hickton playing through it. And it's a PS1 demake of kind of the opening section of Bloodborne. So it's basically Cleric Beast and Father Gascoigne, I think, is all they have. I'm not sure if they got as far as Old Yharnam. It's not the whole game, but it's basically, hey, what if Bloodborne was a PS1 game? So that's what they've got here. Yeah, so it implements a lot of funny things that you wouldn't necessarily expect anymore. Definitely you wouldn't expect anymore, like things like you can't use the analog stick, it's all D-pad movement. There's no auto-saving, you only save at bonfires. Or not bonfires, the lanterns in Bloodborne. You know, it has like a pseudo memory card for the PS1. Things like the PS1 controller didn't have analog sticks, which is why you needed to use the D-pad. They came out later, but not every game supported them. Which means also you don't have a right analog stick to move the camera around, so you use the shoulder buttons. This is the kind of shit we had to put up with in the PS1 days. And then there's things like literal loading screens, because again, disc streaming wasn't really a thing yet. Just loading in stuff off the disc. That kind of came in with stuff like Soul Reaver, I think was one of the first games to do it, where they would try to avoid having loading screens at all. And they would just stream stuff off the disc. And that kind of technology, it managed to eventually find its way into pretty much every game at that point. But yeah, not a thing in the PS1. Memory constraints, definitely not a thing. Definitely only became a thing maybe in the PS2, and even then you still had loading screens for stuff. Loading screens in general are still there. Like, this is even like PS4, PS5, Xbox One stuff, games that still have loading screens. Like, you need to load stuff. It's not instantaneous. Not everything has an SSD. Anyway, that's a lot of fun. That video was a lot of fun to watch. I have it downloaded. You can get it now if you want. It's on itch.io, itch.io. Don't know how you pronounce it. The link to this is in the description, or more specifically, the paste bin that contains all the links of this video is in the subscription. You've looked it up, but I'm sure if you just type Bloodborne demake into your search thing of choice, I'm sure you'll find it. Yeah, check it out. Check it out before Sony decide to fire a cease and desist at them, you know, because I imagine this will get taken down pretty quickly. And then second thing, because it's a time for really good games that are just getting a new look. So while Bloodborne was demaked and made to look maybe not quite as good as it does, instead, Resident Evil 4 was given a HD pack, not an official HD pack. This is a fan-made HD mod that really upscales all of the assets. Now, Capcom will still probably try to do something about this. The thing is, as far as I'm aware, you don't have to pay for it, and they're not using any of the original assets. Like they're applying changes to the original assets, but none of the original assets appear in the mod file. So there's like a legal thing there that they're not doing anything. So Capcom will have a stronger, or rather a weaker position for doing anything to take that down, as opposed to Sony for Bloodborne, because it's just fucking obvious on that. Although again, the Bloodborne demake is also free. But yeah, this like texture pack, what it effectively is, or a big HDify of Resident Evil 4, is really good. Like, it looks really good. Definitely check that out. It is of course only on PC at the moment, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, unless Capcom are like, this is a really good mod, hey, here's some money, let's see if we can port it to all of our other games. I doubt. Do you think Capcom are going to do that? No, of course they fucking won't. Anyway, do check that out. I'm in the process of getting a PC that could actually fucking run this. Although, I mean, my PC could probably do it, but the graphics card has been being a dick lately, so I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Anyway, looks really good. I don't know why I didn't full screen that, sorry. Probably should have. It's fucking too late for that now. You know what? I'll full screen it for the end, but you'll only see it in a very tiny screen. So, yeah. Anyway, that was the news for 31st of January to the 6th of February 2022. Sony buying Bungie, yeah, that's an interesting acquisition, but again, they are allegedly letting them stay independent, so has anything really changed? Not really. It's more what they do with Bungie going forward is what will be interesting. Like, their 10 live service games that they're planning to come out in the next 4 years with. I haven't heard anything as far as... I can't think of any live service games that Sony has announced. I can't think of any. So they haven't announced them yet. And if they're based on existing IPs or new IPs, I imagine they'll go with new IPs just to test the waters. And then if it becomes like a successful thing, they'll maybe bring in their existing ones or whatever. Although I can't think of any Sony first property that would lend itself well to the live service right now. It's like probably Horizon. It's kind of it. I can't really think of any other ones that would work well. Anyway, like God of War wouldn't, because unless you're going to play as Kratos, now who fucking cares, right? Like Kratos is such a big part of that entire series. Whereas, yeah, Aloy is a big part of Horizon as well, obviously. But I think you could play as somebody else and it would be fine. Whereas God of War, like he's the fucking title in the game. Like, you know, he is the God of War. Like he is the title character. Like I don't think you can really get away with that. Days Gone, they're not making any more of. Ghost of Tsushima, I don't imagine. There has, like, I have seen like rumors that they are planning a sequel or some kind of follow-up to it. But I imagine that will stay as a first person. Last of Us, actually, yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, Last of Us would probably make a perfectly fine live service game. Yep. Elsewhere on the channel, you can see latest or next, maybe, I forget which one is in this layout, but yeah, some new videos. So this week we played Kena Bridge of Spirits on Monday, and then we played Heavenly Bodies on Wednesday, and then we played Dying Light 2 on Saturday. So they were some interesting games. Kena Bridge of Spirits is kind of a comfortable action-adventure kind of thing. It's not super difficult, it's fairly colorful and friendly kind of game. Heavenly Bodies is an extremely frustrating physics game, which is very much QWOP in space. It's very difficult. And is fun playing with other people. It is extremely frustrating playing it by yourself. And Dying Light 2, we didn't get very far in it, admittedly. And I do kind of regret not playing it through, or playing it a bit before I went stream, because I streamed almost immediately when it was downloaded. Which meant we pretty much only played the tutorial, so that's not great. So I may do another Dying Light 2 stream at some point, just so we can have a look at what the real game is all about, instead of just the tutorial, because I don't think the tutorial does it justice, really. Anyway, next week we'll be looking at Witchwood, which is it's a bit like Cozy Grove and a bit like Stardew Valley, in that it's you are in a forest, you are the old witch of the forest, and you are doing like crafting stuff and helping out the residents of the forest. Wednesday, Chorus, which is a what do you call it? It's a space dogfighting game, which there haven't been many of really recently. So I'll be interested to see how it plays. Its reviews are kind of it's okay, so I imagine it will be okay. And then Friday we'll be looking at Sifu, which comes out this week. I won't be getting the deluxe super mega edition, so I won't be getting it till Friday anyway, which is fine because I wouldn't be able to play it until the weekend anyway. That's what's coming up this week. I also, again, still have plans to get back to Alan Wake and finally getting back to my monthly recap videos, but again, Depression sucks. And it makes me not want to work on these things. So yeah. Tell you what, as soon as I fix my depression, I'll get right on that shit. As soon as I overcome fucking 20 years of depression, I'll get right on that. Anyway, let me know what you thought of today's video. Sorry it wasn't a live one. I had too much on this weekend. I wasn't going to be around to do it. Or I would be around, but it would be at 2 a.m. or something like that. So anyway, let me know what you thought. And I'll see you guys around on Twitter or YouTube, Twitch, something like that. I'm Doom25 on all of them. Check me out. Or don't, whatever. I'm not your dad. Anyway. I'll see you guys next time.